Sometimes in life, it can feel like we're spinning our wheels, or as the analogy of we've got all these plates spinning on sticks and we're running from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And the only thing is on our mind is, when are one of those plates going to drop? It could be our work life, or our home life, or our fitness life. We've got all these different areas, and sometimes it can just feel so hard to keep up. However, on top of that, especially with social media today, there can be an incredible pressure that is projected onto us, especially as, for me now, I'm Gen X, so I grew up before the internet, and my heart literally goes out to everybody who was born into the age of the internet, because I've heard some people of my generation, I'm 50 years old now, and I hear people talking about, oh, these kids today, they're on the phones and they're, not tuning into life and blah, blah, blah. And my reply to that, when I hear people talking about children or young people in a derogatory way like that, is you have no idea how hard it must be to grow up in the age of social media from the day you were born. Nobody who has grown up outside of the internet era has any idea how tough, how overwhelming it must be for younger people to grow up in the age of the internet. But reflecting on people as a whole, it could be that we're expected to have the perfect relationship. We're expected to have the life that we want. We're expected to have the financial income that we want. We're expected to have the perfect health, and the list goes on. And then if we don't have all of those areas perfect all the time, we can start to face a lot of social judgment. Okay, so with all that said, let's take it to the screen and go through the piano analogy. The content or information in these videos is for educational and informational purposes only. Now, one thing I want to keep in mind all the way through this is that a full piano, has 88 keys. And if you take a professional or a highly skilled piano player, then they can play all those 88 keys and they can play the music with those 88 keys. Now, I'm actually learning keyboard and piano at the moment, and I find it very, very difficult. I have no skill whatsoever, and I'm totally lost. I'm very basic with it, and I have no idea what I'm doing, which is relevant to what we're going to be talking about here. So we've got the piano, and this picture here summarizes it absolutely perfectly and is related to everything about the piano analogy. So if you look at this picture here, remember, a piano has got 88 keys, and each key is very different in its sound. And you've got this little character here, little child, and they are so small that they have to stand on the piano itself to reach two of the keys. And the hands are so small that they need to use probably both hands to press down one of the white keys. Their arms are so tiny that they can't even reach the black keys. Now, their legs aren't long enough to stand on the floor to press the pedals. So obviously, as this little character here is completely incapable of playing all 88 keys, they might be able to run up and down and press one key, then run back down the other side and press another key. But they're never going to be able to play the music. Now, that is what we are like as children. We are helpless little creatures that have no idea what's going on because we don't have the skills. We don't have the ability. We can have here that we as children, as younger people, when we are growing up, we can go through years and years and years of education, but we may not be taught, for example, about the mind, how the mind functions, how to understand emotionally manipulative behavior, how to work through trauma, how to work through anxiety, or it could be, for example, with ADHD, which a lot of people are going through at this moment in time. It is a very real thing, but lots of people, unfortunately, aren't really understanding what ADHD actually is, self-diagnosing themselves and tying themselves in knots, making their life a lot harder than it needs to be through a lack of education. So we have got this body, and how many times were we taught about true physical fitness? What about discipline? What about dedication? Why we should train the body? We can go through years and years of education and be taught nothing about that. We can go through years of education and not be taught about the practical application of life. And also, how many times we taught about how to communicate with people? Or what about a huge part of millions of people's lives, romantic relationships? How many of us were taught about how to communicate in romantic relationships? How many of us were taught the discipline and to understand and be patient, to understand the difference between masculine and feminine energy? And I'm not talking about men and women there, because every man has masculine and feminine energy, and every woman has masculine and feminine energy. How many of us were ever taught about that? How to really, truly understand and empathize the perspective of another person when we are in a romantic relationship. If you're anything like I was, very little education was ever shared with you when you were younger. So, because of our lack of education, then we often get overloaded. So we get into a job role and we might have, say, an anxiety about rejection. We get that job promotion, we get imposter syndrome, or we could be in a romantic relationship and we feel out of our depth because what if we have an anxiety that we're going to get rejected and we project that onto our partner? Unknowing, of course. Or it could be that we get into a codependent relationship, like, for example, if we look at the drama triangle by Dr. Stephen Cartman, we could have one person who's in a victim mindset that believes everybody's out to get them and nobody's there for them. But then another person could be a rescuer, where they're constantly going, I'll be there for you. Nobody's going to be there for you like I will be there for you, which is a duality of two people's coping strategies of masks bouncing off each other. And while we have that, very often we will start to feel overwhelmed and overloaded. We're expected to know how to have the perfect job, how to make the money, how to have a romantic relationship, how to be the perfect parent. And one of the hardest things that people can ever go through is being a parent, looking after other people. For some people, it might really flow. But for a lot of people, they may really, really struggle with it, but they're expected just to know what to do. And that is going on that analogy of the piano. All these 88 keys, all these different areas of life, we're just expected to know what to do. But if we've not been educated, we've not been taught what to do, how are we going to know? So to ask you now, do you ever feel like this character in this picture? You feel maybe overwhelmed with life. You didn't have the education. You haven't had access to the education. Life has been really, really busy. You've used absolute 100% of your energy just to get through the life that you've got going on today because everything is coming at you 100%. So in the ideal world, what we're looking for here is to learn to play with all of the keys, and that takes time. But if we are under immense amounts of pressure, it could be that you have children, or it could be that you've working 50 to 60 to 70 hours a week, or it could be that you've got a lot of pressure on yourself to look after other people, or you're caring for somebody, or it could be that you've got ill health. It could be a whole range of different things, and you just feel overwhelmed and stressed. You've got all these plates spinning, and you're just doing it the best you can. And a lot of people, again, may be looking at you and saying, come on, you should be doing better. One thing I want to say here is that if you're putting 100% into life, you feel really overwhelmed, feel confused, you don't really know what to do, and things are getting on top of you, then you're definitely not alone. There's a lot of people in this world who are claiming that they've got everything together, but they really don't. They're just pretending that they do and saying to everybody on social media that they do, because underneath they don't want to hear the judgment and criticism from other people saying that they are inadequate. But for millions of people all over the world, the song The Show Must Go On by Queen and the powerful lyrics, inside my heart is breaking, my makeup may be flaking, but my smile still stays on. And millions of people are living that way each and every day, and they are judging themselves and criticizing themselves and berating themselves. And unfortunately, social media of people pretending to be something that they're not is creating that comparison that people are saying to themselves, well, everybody else is living this wonderful life and I'm not, therefore I'm inadequate. so they try even harder. But unfortunately, a lot of people, especially these people who claim that they are so successful, it's actually a mask. So if you've got any thoughts, reflections, or ideas of anything that we've been discussing here in this video, feel free to put them in the comments below, because as they always say, you never know, your comment could change somebody else's life for the better forever.